Biden says he still believes Chinese President Xi Jinping is a dictator, even after yesterday's 4-hour meeting between the two leaders. Watch this.
After today, would you still refer to President Xi as a dictator? This is a term that we used earlier this year.
Well, look, he is. I mean, he's a dictator in the sense that he is a guy who runs a country that is a communist country that is based on a form of government totally different than ours. Anyway, it makes sense.
China responded to the president's remarks this morning, calling them, quote, extremely wrong and irresponsible political manipulation. Biden said yesterday he and Xi made real progress in their meeting as they walked in this beautiful garden. They agreed to reopen a presidential hotline, resume military-to-military communications, and work to curb, their word, not mine, quote, curb the flow of fentanyl into America. Joining me right now is Atlas Organization founder and the author of The Decisive Decade, Jonathan D.T. writes all about the U.S.'s response to China's aggression in this decisive decade. Jonathan, good to see you. Thanks very much for being here. What is your reaction to the Biden-Xi meeting?
Well, look, Maria, I mean, on one hand, the expectations have been set very low. I mean, bringing most of the cabinet or most of the significant cabinet secretaries together to sit across from the Chinese counterparts and trying to get somewhere on, further dialogue and fentanyl. I mean, those seem to be the deliverables. But on the other hand, they don't keep these promises. We already know that. They have made promises on fentanyl before. And, we're not really going to see any real change in China's actual grand strategy. I mean, what they want is to buy time through diplomacy with the United States so that their economic, trajectory stays on course. I mean, they want to remain engaged with the U.S. They never would have gotten this far without American capital, technology, and market access. And they just need to get a little more of that for the decade ahead. And if we don't call them on that, if we don't move forward, we're going to realize that there was this moment that we had where we could have stopped the rise of China, changed the geopolitical game, and regained our own ascendancy, and we will have lost it. So I think these sorts of meetings, the problem really is what comes after. I mean, the CEO summit, where you get 400 business leaders and government officials together, I mean, that sort of signal, I mean, it's normalizing this dictatorship, bringing essentially a dictator who's killing 70,000 Americans a year through fentanyl flows, who's backing Putin's war in Ukraine, who's carrying out all sorts of human rights atrocities within his own country, and saying it's normal to have dinner with this man. It's okay to do that. And that's the real problem, because if we don't disengage, if we don't curb capital and technology and market access, then they are going to continue to gain on us, and we're going to get a much darker day later in this decade.
Yeah, I want to get back to what you said a minute ago, because there is news about excluding CCP companies from key federal retirement plans, but I'll get to that in a moment. You mentioned the dinner with business executives. And by the way, I would say during Nazi Germany, there were enablers there too, right? And these enablers clearly want to get a piece of market share to selling to Chinese customers. Apple CEO Tim Cook, Tesla CEO Elon Musk, BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, and other top executives among those in attendance last night. Here's what Xi Jinping had to say during his keynote address to those business leaders. Watch.
That once open, the door of China-U.S. relations cannot be shut again. It is wrong to view China, which is committed to peaceful development, as a threat, and thus play a zero-sum game against it. China never bets against the United States and never interferes in its internal affairs. China has no intention to challenge the United States or to unseat it. Instead, we will be glad to see a confident, open, ever-growing, and prosperous United States.
Meanwhile, Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo, U.S. Ambassador to China Nicholas Burns, and the White House's top China advisor Kurt Campbell also attended that dinner. Jonathan, your reaction? I like the way Xi Jinping says China never bets against America. That's not true.
Right, and Gina Raimondo apparently said, thank you, President Xi, for your collaboration and coordination with regard to fentanyl. So to thank this man it's just so insane at this point. I mean, that's why Xi Jinping's here. He's here to sit with those CEOs and say, keep the money flowing, keep the technology flowing, keep the economic relationship going. He doesn't need anything from Biden except essentially that introduction, getting into that room. That's what matters, is that the U.S., he does not want us to execute a containment strategy while we still have the time to do so, and he needs the red carpet so that he can go and continue to have access to the U.S. market. That is why He's here, and if we're going to give him that, we're going to regret it. I mean, we pay a high price in history for the wrong kind of symmetry. And I think that really the tragedy of San Francisco here is that giving him this platform to speak to our business leaders and to have them to continue to take our country down this path, which will result in inevitable tragedy. I mean, we're continuing to fund our primary adversary. And I think at this point, it's eyes wide open. I mean, the geopolitical situation is easy enough to understand. The CEOs are intelligent, but they're being sort of enabled here.
Yeah.
And it's being normalized. When in fact we should have nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
And this Xi Jinping is killing Americans. He's supporting Russia. He's supporting Iran in the Middle East, and the list is just it's widely understood.
Yeah.
And this is our last chance for action, and it looks like we're not going to take it.
Well, it looks like there was a little bit of a baby victory in terms of funding that expansion of communist China. The Federal Retirement Thrift Investment Board announcing the main U.S. federal government pension fund will now exclude China and Hong Kong listed stocks on the recommendation of its investment consultant. The I Fund, which manages the pensions for nearly 7 million federal employees, will shift to the MSCI All Country World ex-USA ex-China ex-Hong Kong Investable Market Index next year, Jonathan. I've been reporting on this, as you know, for years, the fact that this thrift fund is allowing American investors 401k participants of government, for God's sakes, to invest in our number one adversary by investing in these companies that are tied to the Chinese military. The Coalition for a Prosperous America today applauded the unanimous decision. It was first reported by the Financial Times that the Thrift Investment Board is going to exclude the CCP companies from key federal retirement index. Your thoughts on this?
Well, that's great. I mean, getting the pensions out of China is going to be one of the most important things. I mean, U.S. pensions and allied pensions are the single largest pools of capital in the world. So if they're starting to show the way on this and do the obvious thing, which is to not fund particularly government employees, but really across the board, I mean, our pensions should be getting out of China and definitely getting out of the companies that are linked to the Chinese military, that are linked to human rights abuses. I mean, pretty much any company in China's strategic sectors is going to be tied into the entire enterprise of the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation and its attendant military and sort of human rights abuses. So all of that. I mean, when you're putting money in there, it just goes through the whole system to fund the rise of China as the Communist Party sees fit. So getting the money out whole hog is the important thing. And it's good also to hear more and more about demand from investors and from institutions for non-China indexes. I mean, that's going to be really important. And yet, Larry Fink is at that dinner with Xi Jinping, and Ray Dalio's there, and the usual suspects are all there. So right. God knows they're not trying to get out. So
no, they're not trying to get out at all. And Larry Fink runs BlackRock, which of course is home to all of so many of those indexes which hold Chinese companies. But I spoke with Roger Robinson about this. He says the U.S. government has now rejected the holding of Chinese and Hong Kong-based securities in the international fund of the world's largest public pension system. That's $770 billion because of unacceptable levels of fiduciary national security and human rights risks. He says, how do state public employees, retirement systems, university endowments, and Wall Street firms justify continuing to hold these companies and traffic such CCP securities, Jonathan? But you see it on display last night at that dinner. What kind of a response do you believe should happen now? What should take place now after this meeting where these two are promising us that they're going to curb the fentanyl coming in and have our militaries once again communicate with one another?
Well, look, I mean, the important thing is the only way that we can win this is through economic power. And I think what these meetings are showing is that that's what this administration is taking off the table. I mean, they're letting go of a human rights and values-based diplomacy. I mean, you can see the human rights community responding to the San Francisco meeting. I mean, they're losing the entire cause of human rights here. I mean, that's just should be noted. And then, on the other hand, the main arena of U.S.-China competition, the arena that will allow us to actually prevail, which is economics, that's being taken off the table completely, and and that seems that is, how these meetings are happening. How diplomacy, for the sake of engagement, for the sake of meetings, we're not taking the hard economic measures that we need to take on capital, and that we need to take on market access, and that we need to take against Chinese corporations in the strategic industries. The House Select Committee has pointed that out. That at first, the first year of the Biden administration, they were actually, taking some pretty important actions. and then it all just slowed down and went away. So that's our problem, is if you're going to stay out of the main arena, then we're going to pay the price.
Yeah, Jonathan, we got to jump
into economic
real quick. Do you have any assessment of all of these Chinese nationals coming into America, largely military-aged men? 7,000 Chinese apprehended in all the ports of entries and southern border in the month of October. 7,000.
Sure. I mean, that's not my zone, really. I'm not, haven't, been down to the border myself.
Okay. Jonathan, thank you very much for being here. Always insightful. Jonathan D.T. Ward on Communist China.